Greetings, everyone. Happy Pride weekend. How many people celebrated Pride this weekend? Went to one of the events. There were numerous events. So. Channel 4, if you have TV. I don't know, is it different with Dish and DirecTV and Comcast? Okay, it's all 4? Okay, okay, Channel 4 KOB is here. If you would like to speak with them, you're welcome to. He's in the back. We just had a nice chat. I've been doing a lot of research this week for the Pride Candlelight Vigil on Thursday evening. I had offered to do a piece about the Orlando shooting and write the liturgy for that. So in order to do it justice, if you didn't go to the Candlelight Vigil, we called out the names of those that died, and then we told a little story about the 7 different people. 2 of those were survivors. One was a family member of someone that died. Just to kind of give a flavor of those that we lost in our community. And so it's been kind of a heavy week for me in many ways, just reading their stories and seeing the young lives, so much potential. Before I talk about Orlando, though, I want to talk just briefly about the upstairs fire. How many people have heard of the upstairs? The terrorist attack that killed 49 and wounded 53 in Orlando, Florida, was the largest mass killing of gay people in American history. But before Sunday, that grim distinction was held by a largely forgotten arson event at a New Orleans bar in 1973 that killed 32 people at a time when to be gay was a stigma and anti-gay rhetoric was very prevalent. The upstairs lounge patrons gathered there not only as a social club, but also as a faith community, as a religious gathering place. It was a sort of activities or community center for the people of New Orleans. Patrons often used a piano and a cabaret stage for entertainment, including shows and parties. Its reputation as a social club led Metropolitan Community Church of New Orleans to go and use that facility for their worship services. And Pastor William Larson and Assistant Pastor Dwayne George Mitchell would regularly host social events, sounds like us, doesn't it, for church members and members of the gay community following worship services. On June 24th of 1973, MCC had just finished their worship service, and they were hosting another social event with free beer, and I'm sure that got a crowd. Free beer and food, you can't beat that, and food for about 125 men and women. Later in the evening, about 8 p.m., the crowd had dwindled down to about 60, almost all of whom were dedicated members of the church. It was around 8 when the buzzer of the door rang, the only entrance to the upstairs lounge. And when the door was buzzed open from the upstairs bar, someone doused the staircase with lighter fluid and then threw a lighted torch into the stairwell. The flames rushed up into the lounge very quickly, and soon the entire bar was engulfed in flames. 32 people died, making it the deadliest fire in the history of New Orleans. But what is so tragic about this event, I think, also, is that in the fire's aftermath, many New Orleans residents revealed prejudice against gays and the culture of the gay community. One of the survivors, Stuart Butler, recalls the silence he had to endure the day after the fire. The next morning, I still, like so many other people, especially those who had witnessed all the tragedy, we were almost immobile with grief and shock. But I had to go to work. I was in the closet at work, and I would have lost my job if I had come out. So I couldn't say one word about it. Can you imagine having to go to work the next day? Of the 32 people that died in the fire, 4 of the bodies were unclaimed because the families refused to identify them out of fear that others would find out that their loved ones were gay. Many members of the New Orleans community, even those who were assigned to investigate the fire, either largely disregarded it or refused to take it seriously. And of course, many people with strong religious convictions had interpreted the fire as a form of divine retribution, punishing those for being gay. How often have we heard that? MCC, Reverend Troy Perry, our founder, went out to New Orleans and tried to get the city of New Orleans to release the bodies, the 4 unclaimed bodies, so that MCC could give them proper burials. The city refused to do that, and they buried the 4 bodies in a mass grave. The events at the upstairs lounge were ignored and sometimes mocked by politicians and the media. We know that outpourings of grief from politicians and everyday people followed the shootings in Orlando. But for those who remember the fire in the upstairs lounge, it is a lonely memory. Public figures were unsupportive, and the mayor did not cancel his vacation. 40 years later, the son of that mayor, who is now the current mayor, declared a day of public mourning for the fire's victims on the day of his anniversary. Mike Moreau, who is now 72, lost several friends in the fire, said he was struck by all the differences between then and now, but also by the familiarity of tragedy's dull ache. What happened to us had to be kept so private. The public didn't want to know about it. And if they heard about it, they didn't care. People would say things like, "Thank God they're gone, they deserved it." To see the outpouring of love and support that these poor families have gotten is fantastic, he said about the Orlando massacre. They are hurting the same way we hurt, but at least they know that the world supports them and understands their grief. Pastor Bill Larson of the MCC New Orleans Church was among one of those dead, and his charred body was left against the window bars in full view of passerbys for hours after the fire. When firefighters came in after extinguishing the blaze, they found many charred bodies, and many of them were embracing each other in their final moments. In a book that was published about the fire, the writer Delray Edwards wrote that LGBTQ people have a place at the table now that they did not have then. And Johnny Townsend, who interviewed survivors in the late 80s and finally published their stories in 2014, so that now maybe people will have a sense of their history and where we have come from. In Orlando last year, 49 people lost their lives. They were college students, they were mothers, they were fathers, they were couples, they were dancers, they were singers, they were business workers. The youngest one was 18, one was 19. Many were people who gave back to their communities. And when you look at their pictures, which are on the walls here with us, you can't help but mourn their loss. Mourn for their families, their loved ones, but I also mourn for the loss of how this person could have helped shape our world into a better place. 53 people were also wounded. One survivor will never walk again. One survivor lost her wife and is now raising their 3-year-old son alone. One of those killed was Akira Murray, who was a top student and a standout athlete at our Philadelphia high school. A teenager who impressed everyone who watched her on the basketball court. And those who knew her said she had warmth and magnetic embrace. The 18-year-old was celebrating her graduation from high school. Can you imagine celebrating your graduation from high school with a trip to Orlando? She had just graduated 3rd in her senior class, led the girls' basketball team, and had just gotten a scholarship to a college in Pennsylvania. Shane Tomlinson was a passionate singer, and he had just finished performing with his band before heading over to the Falls to do some dancing. People say he was a vibrant and charismatic lead vocalist. He performed at nightclubs and weddings in the Orlando area. Juan and Drew were described as a perfect couple and very much in love. And friends said that the couple displayed a love that we wish to see in our world, the kind that pulls people together and breaks down walls. Drew worked as a mental health counselor and had recently won the Anne Frank Humanitarian Award for his work want to talk a little bit about the shooter because I think it's an important piece of this story. Based on the accounts of his acquaintances and family, Mateen, the name of the shooter, appears to have been a deeply conflicted and possibly self-loathing homophobe. I call it internalized homophobia, who drank heavily, took drugs, dated men, frequented the Pulse nightclub, and used a gay dating app. Not the sort of behavior one would expect of a faithful soldier of Islam. He was full of hatred and uncontrollable anger. An example of what law enforcement officials describe as an aspiring violent criminal searching for a larger justification for the acts he's desperate to commit. From what we know now, he seems to have been a homophobic wife-beater, confused about his own sexuality, who found justification for terrorism in a seemingly confused idea of Islam. Mateen's father talked often about God punishing those who were homosexuals. And I can just imagine how awful it must have been for Mateen to be gay and confused and have his father talk so negatively about homosexuality. The community members say that the shooter had been in the Pulse nightclub on numerous occasions and was known to have encounters with men. I believe he had suffered from internalized homophobia and also suffered from the effects of a society that continues to condemn those who love those of the same gender. Definitely had a mental illness. But I hope that each one of us in the room and in the world around us can find it within our hearts to give mercy and to offer him forgiveness. He left behind a young son who is going to have to grow up in the shadow of his father's legacy. It is time for us to acknowledge that many people are unable to accept who they are, be it their sexuality, their gender identity, or any other part of their identity. And their struggle comes from the judgment of others, their family, their friends, from their faith communities, from society. I always want to look for the cause. What caused this? You know, when you ask the question, why did this happen? On the positive note, city and county officials in Orlando, Florida, want this one-year anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting to be marked with acts of love and kindness. And tomorrow, June 12th, will be dedicated as Orlando United Day, a day of love and kindness. Our community will never forget the tragedy of Pulse or the grief of those who lost loved ones, the mayor said. From heartbroken family and friends to survivors putting their shattered lives back together, our entire community stands with them. The outpouring of support they have received is in sharp contrast to the upstairs lounge fire of 1973. And for that, we thank our God. The world showed compassion for the tragedy in Orlando. And just a few misguided so-called religious folks spoke about the judgment of God and all the other rhetoric they like to spew. What can we learn from Orlando? Once again, why did he have an assault rifle? And deciding to do nothing about guns is making a decision. As long as we continue to let just anybody get an assault rifle, we will continue to have these shootings. They seem to be escalating. It's almost becoming a weekly thing now. When will we address the mental health issues in our country and provide resources for those that have mental health care issues? Speaking from experience, it is not easy. You could be on that phone for days and not find the help that you need. To our churches out there, it's time for us to stop judging others. We weren't elected to judge anybody. We're not called to judge anybody.
Amen.
Nobody put you in charge. You're not God, so stop judging. God is still with us in times of our tragedy. I believe God weeps with us when we weep. I believe that the divine creator who spun this universe and world into existence, however that was, I don't think it took 7 days. Maybe it did. Maybe it took 1, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll learn all that one day. That divine creator, the one that we call Yahweh, God, Jehovah, is still with us and has compassion for us and for the world that we live in. It is in times like this that we learn to lean on our faith, trusting that Jesus walks with us on this journey.
Amen.
We may not always understand why something happens, but we can trust and believe and work to make something positive to come out of the tragedy. It is time for the faith communities to stop their spiritual violence against those that they may disagree with. Love can always overcome hate.
Amen.
Love is always stronger than hate. After the tragedy, the Orlando hospital staff received an outpouring of love and support from their community. They said they got endless pizzas, handmade cards from kindergartens, and banners of support signed by others, healthcare staff in other cities that had also experienced tragedies. Boston, Aurora, Colorado, Blacksburg, Virginia. And they said that love, that outpouring of love, helped them to heal. An ER nurse that was there that night said, the only thing that helps me get through this is thinking that in the face of such hate, the only thing that can change it is love. And I know love because I was there that night. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest law? What's the greatest commandment? He was asked that by the religious leaders of the time. He said it's very simple. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul.
Amen.
You shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Amen.
It sounds so easy. It's to love others, not judge. I know in some ways I'm preaching to the choir, but sometimes maybe we have to check ourselves if we see somebody that's a big biker covered in tattoos with numerous piercings and go, I'm afraid of that person. I was once watching something on National Geographic about a man that made himself into a lizard. He had a green face tattoo and all that, implants. And who am I to judge? You know, that's what he wants to live by. Who am I to judge if 3 people that come to me and say they're in a loving, committed relationship with each other? Who am I to judge? You know, I just, it's not my job, it's not my role, it's not your role either.
Amen.
And that's very liberating. I don't have to worry about that. And I don't have to impose my views onto other people who may disagree with me. I pray that as we celebrate Pride, that we look back at our history, how far we have come. I believe that the LGBTQ community has a lot to teach the world. A lot to teach this world. We have been ones that have been outcast, vilified, demonized, and yet we come together collectively, different as we are. And you can see the diversity in the Pride Parade. How many people saw the Pride Parade? You've got the leather daddies, you've got where the dykes on bikes there. You've got, you've got the moms, the dads, you've got the churches, you've got just a whole gambit of different organizations and groups. People who we may disagree with on certain issues, politically, economically, socially, whatever, but we're united together in love. We can't lose that. I was reading that today is also the Resist rally. Everybody familiar with Resist? It's at 12:30 at Robinson Park. I encourage you to go down and resist. I think one of our biggest threats is not from those that disagree with us right now, but from within our community. I was reading this morning about the DC Pride Parade was stopped by several gay organizations that are supporting the Resist March. And they said, we don't want this to become corporate gay pride, which I tend to agree with. But we need to work out our differences in a room and speak our truth in love. I think our biggest threat comes from us wanting to divide among ourselves and to judge those who don't like us and don't believe like us, and lose that unity. It's so important that we stay united as one community. Remember the 49 that lost their lives. If you have the courage, go on the internet, look at some of their stories. If you look at their faces, it's heartbreaking. When I look at them and hear their stories. I hope that when I cross over, that maybe someone will be there, maybe they can teach me some Latin. Something I've always wanted to learn. Let's close in prayer. Beloved God, we have gathered on this day and we have taken time to remember the lives of the 49 people we lost. We place in your tender hands families that were torn apart, lovers who lost their love, parents who lost their children, friends who lost their friends. We remember the 53 people who were wounded and the countless others who were wounded spiritually, psychologically, and physically in so many ways. Give us the strength to seek forgiveness for the shooter. Bind us together, O God, to continue our unfinished calling and our prophetic destiny to demand, proclaim, and do justice in our world. And may we, O God, as a faith community, be a people of radical hospitality at every occasion as we work toward a world where everyone thrives, where wars cease, and all of creation lives in harmony with one another. We ask, O God, that you be with us today. Let us continue to celebrate with you, O God, knowing that you are with us on this incredible journey. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you.